All right, guys, today joining us on the podcast is Brianne Davis. In television, Brianne was most recently on the History Channel 6, starring in a leading role. She also appeared in Netflix's Lucifer, Hulu's Casual, Fox's Rosewood, HBO's True Blood, and CBS's The Mentalist, just to name a few. Brianne's first lead role in film came in 2005 with the blockbuster hit Jarhead, where she starred opposite Jake Gyllenhaal. She also starred in the horror film Prom Night alongside Brittany Snow, Kellan Lutz, and Idris Elba. Under her production company, Give and Take Productions, Brianne has also produced 3 films, while also directing The Night Visitor and Deadly Signal. She's also the host of the popular mental health podcast, Secret Life, which features inspiring true confessions from an eclectic group of guests, unpacking a plethora of taboo topics. Brianne is also the author of Secret Life of a Hollywood Sex and Love Addict, her debut novel, which released earlier this year and instantly hit the bestsellers list on Amazon. So with that, I'd love to welcome in Brianne Davis. Thanks for joining us today, Brianne.
Thank you. You should always read my bio. That's awesome. I sound so cool. I sound so much cooler than I am.
Oh, no, you're super cool. You're super cool. I had to trim that down actually as well.
Yeah, I'm so glad to be here. I think, being an actress for 20 years, a working actress, been on probably every show you can imagine, but you would never recognize me, which sometimes I like and sometimes I don't like. But I think the big thing for me right now is being of service with my recovery of sex and love addiction. I have 11 years of recovery and SLAW. They call it SLAW. So if you hear me say SLAW, I'm not talking about coleslaw. I'm talking about Sex and Love Addicts Anonymous. And just now being of service and putting a face to sex addiction and love addiction, that's not someone that got caught cheating, that, isn't just a man. So 50% of the program is women, and it affects millions and millions of people all over this world. So I'm just really wanting to bring my experience, strength, and hope, and, give my opinion or help someone that needs help.
That's amazing. And, it sounds like you've come a long way in terms of where your career started to where it's gone and also where it's heading. And you've also shifted gears, right? And what you're doing now and being of service. So what we'd love to do is invite you to go back and just describe for us, how you came to be the Brianne of today. Feel free to go back as far as you like. We'd love to hear your origin story.
Yeah. I grew up in Atlanta, Georgia, before film and television, ran Atlanta, Georgia like it does now. So growing up, I wasn't aware that I wanted to be an actor. All I knew is that I like to play make-believe. I like to become other people. And in doing that, I think my therapist said I picked the worst career for my addiction because it allows me to become other people. And what happened at such a young age, I started to become other people in my real life. I would put on these different masks. If I, was with someone, a friend, even family members, I would become a different person. So I never had a very stable childhood growing up in Atlanta. I came from a broken home. I didn't see marriage. I didn't see having kids as something I ever wanted to do as a woman. I sexually assaulted or molested very young, which I blocked that out and didn't find out until my 20s that happened. So I just think like it's a recipe for a creative disaster, like becoming an actor and having this addiction, because I definitely, writing the book, looking back, I just went headfirst into Hollywood and into my addiction at the same time. It definitely probably amplified it, but here's the beautiful thing. I got sober pretty fat. Like I hit a bottom so hard that I was like, I'm going to be doing this the rest of my life. So if I go all the way back, I had a learning disability. My parents, I never saw them hold hands, kiss, sleep in the same bed. They fought all the time. So when I looked at relationships, I was like, I don't want that. And then through adolescence, I had my first time getting high off another person was when I was 13 years old. I kissed another boy when I had a boyfriend, young love. But I'm telling you guys, the moment that happened, it was like a shot of rushed up my arm. And I describe it as probably someone doing heroin. I've never done heroin. I'm not a drug user, but it shot up my arm and my whole body was on fire. And I feel like I've been chasing that high since I was 13 years old. That young love, that butterflies, that falling in love with being in love. Everybody says falling in love is the best high in the world. And I was addicted to that. So I would get into a relationship, and as soon as the butterflies wore off, as soon as like the glossy fun wore off, I started like looking around and flirting and intriguing and using guy friends and attention and outside stuff. And then I would find myself like overlapping relationships. And here's the thing I do want to say. I'm sure you guys have tons of questions about all that I just said, but I'm not someone that's had a one night stand. I have barely many sexual partners. So you can be a sex and love addict and not have a ton of sex partners and not have one night stands. So I just wanted to give a voice and a face that you are not alone. If you have trouble in relationships, if you are you're unavailable, or you keep going after unavailable people, is a big one. And yeah, I just remember doing that over and over and over again in my life. And then I hit my bottom, which I'm sure you want to hear about.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, there's so many little threads that I want to follow down, but yeah, please continue. Please explain what the bottom was and how that sort of culminated into the path that you walk today.
Yeah. So it was just crazy because I met a partner, a man that I really liked. A lot of my partners I realized I picked and I didn't even really like them. I'd be like, wait, you're mean to waiters, or I don't really like that part of your personality. But I would find myself getting in these long-term relationships. But here's a partner I had that I really liked. I liked him as a person. I would want to be friends with him if we weren't together. And it was just a great relationship. So I thought that part of my life was over. I thought me cheating or me intriguing and flirting on set, on location, all that stuff was done because I found somebody I didn't want to get married, but I really liked this person. And we lived together for 3 years. And what happened, I had a mentor die. Something traumatic happened. Something hit me and knocked me off my feet, which, life happens. Like, we don't know when people are going to die. And it all came rushing back. I found myself 2 days later on location in a hotel room about to act out with somebody on set. And I remember almost like floating out of my body going, I don't like this person. I like my boyfriend, but I'm about to blow up my life once again. And I was sitting in, oh my God. It can't be all these people over and over again. And it really made me stop and think. And I remember looking in the mirror and going, oh my God, am I going to be doing this the rest of my life? Am I always going to be looking for that Mr. Right, fix me, white knight, soulmate? And I just was like, I can't do this. I can't be on my deathbed and never be connected to another soul. So I called a friend, and she's been going to this therapist, and she gave me the information, and I came back I didn't do anything, but I came back and I met with a therapist, and she told me 2 things that first therapy session, which I'll tell you. She said, you wear the mask of one of my other clients who's a high class call girl. And I was so like taken aback and angry. I was like, first of all, I have not had many sexual partners. Second of all, like I've never been paid for sex. Like, that's not my thing. And I thought about it for a second. I was like, oh my God, I do have a mask where I like, you never could get to me. I was like an enigma. Like, I always just I wanted no one to ever figure me out because internally I felt so worthless, is what I found out. And then the second thing she told me is, you're a sex and love addict. And I was like, what? Like, totally confused. Never heard of it. I've heard of sex addict. And she told me about these questions, and there's meetings all over LA. LA has the biggest sex and love addict community. And I got in the car and I drove back on the 101, hysterically bawling my eyes out. After then, she told me too that I picked the worst career for my addiction and that she didn't think I needed to be an actress anymore. And I drove and I called my boyfriend I lived with and I said, oh my God, she said I'm a sex and love addict, like hysterically bawling like a crazy person on the highway. And I get home and he prints out all the meetings in LA and highlights all the meetings I can go to. And I found myself later that evening on a meeting on a Wednesday night in a rundown fluorescent lit church, walking in 30 people that were nothing like me. It was like an A-list celebrity, a janitor, a social worker, an elementary school teacher, like every walk of life, every ethnicity, everything. It was so crazy. And I sat down in this horrible blue plastic chair and listened to all these people. And I found myself crying. And I introduced myself. Hi, I'm Brianne. I'm a sex and love addict. And like crying because I was happy because for the first time in my life, I didn't feel broken. I didn't feel alone. I knew nothing was wrong with me. I just didn't get the tools to have healthy relationships. And so I started my journey and it's been 11 plus years. I've sponsored people all over the world. I've spoke all over the world. And it's my mission now, especially with my book, to bring awareness and education. And that I feel like our society right now is like amplifying sex addiction, amplifying it with social media, the swipe left, the swipe right, the porn, the accessibility to porn. It's just really destroying our humanity with each other. So, and here's the thing, and I'm just going to tell the end of the story right now, is I'm married today. I have a child. I have a 3-year-old, which is crazy. And I'm married to the same man that printed up those 40 questions for me. It's not like I got through this program and found the most perfect partner that completed me. No one completes me. I am my own soulmate. There is no such thing as a soulmate actually out there. And that's what I really want to share is like, no one completes me. If my husband left me today, I would be sad. I'd be devastated, but I wouldn't be broken. He doesn't fill a part of me. I do that myself. And that's what the program of sex and love addiction teaches you. It's finding self-love, finding boundaries, finding your self-worth, finding what you actually want in a partner, not the idea of what you think you want. So yeah, it's been a horrible journey. It's the most painful withdrawal known to man, which I'll totally talk about. And yeah, it's the best thing I've ever done for myself.
Thank you for sharing, Brianne. And I think it's a beautiful way that you reframe this semblance of soulmate and you being your own, and that really speaks to a dependency on oneself rather than anything outside of oneself, right? And I think that's really important to note. Tell us about that moment when that sort of realization dropped within you that there was a need to cultivate a level of self-reliance and love within oneself, rather than continually searching for that outside.
Well, I think it really became apparent through my withdrawal. And what withdrawal is in sex and love addiction is different than alcohol or drugs. So alcohol and drugs, you just take the alcohol away and you never drink alcohol again. And drugs, the same thing. But with sex and love addiction, you have to take away all pretty much your interactions with the opposite sex or the who you're attracted to. You take that away. I took away all my guy friends. I didn't have any guy friends. I actually couldn't, one of my bottom lines is that's where we recognize our sobriety. My bottom lines were I don't talk, text, or email any men whatsoever. And then I made it even more extreme. I actually don't make eye contact with men because I realized going through this with the worst withdrawal imaginable, it was 9 months. I cried every day for 9 months. My husband and I, who was my boyfriend at the time, we didn't have sex for the first year of my recovery because I realized I was so detached from my sexuality. I used it for power and control over other people. I was so disconnected that I didn't know how to be intimate with somebody. I didn't know how to connect sex and intimacy. So what you do is you take it all away. You take away masturbation, you take away porn, you take away whoever you're attracted to. If you're in a relationship though, and you're listening right now, if you're in a healthy relationship where there's not a lot of drama and abuse and all that, you're supposed to stay in that relationship because it's not the relationship that's the problem. It's usually you that is the problem. And if you're single, you're supposed to say single. But working through that withdrawal and shedding that onion, peeling that onion back of just how much trauma, how much damage I did to myself, how much, horrible acting out, and just shoving it all down with the next person and the next person, and shopping and eating, all the things we do outside of ourselves that we think is going to fix us. It's an inside job. And I realized very quickly, crying every day for those 9 months, that this was something I had to get out of my body, that this was like a cancer, almost like encroaching my soul and my body. So I allowed myself to really feel that pain. I allowed myself to let my addict self die, let that false self die, let that thought of the soulmate, of the perfect partner die. I had to let every belief I adapted from myself, from the movies I watched, acting jobs I did, all of that had to die. And even that first year, I was willing to give up my career. I've been a working actor for 9 years already, and I was willing to walk away because I knew if I did not deal with this, it was going to kill me sooner or later. It almost, I've gotten caught before. People have gotten in fights. If you watched a Dateline, if you watch anything, usually it's a love triangle. Somebody cheating because of love, or kill somebody over love or sexuality. It's crazy. So I knew going through that withdrawal that I had major work internally to do, that my ego was running the show. I have narcissistic tendencies. I'm selfish and self-seeking. I compare and despair. I'll always be on the losing end. So underneath that is a fear of intimacy, a fear of being abandoned, a fear of not being loved, a fear of worthiness. So I was pretty broken on the inside, and knew if I didn't fix that I would be doing this the rest of my life. And I was sick and tired of doing it.
Yeah. And I think it's a really great example, it's a cathartic process for one to simply allow oneself to, express whatever it is has been suppressed for so long. And, you hear that story a lot of the time, in different contexts. And I love, it's funny that you bring up, that you liken it to an internal cancer, because things like this manifest in different ways for different people. And, I connect a little bit with your story in terms of, playing different roles, in our formative years. And then, I myself was a big suppressor of emotions, which then did manifest in actually cancer for myself, which I have recovered from since 2013. But, it's just funny that these sorts of things, it comes to a tipping point for each of us in different ways. And it sort of acts as a wake-up call, if you will, to really turn inward and do the work that we were supposed to do all along.
Yeah, because if not, what other option do you have? You keep just walking around the world blind and self-involved. And I used every single person as a mirror. It's just, I realized even with girlfriends, even with my family, that I would use them to make me feel better. And I had this one clear moment. I went to an audition, right, for this job I really, really wanted, which my career is all about rejection, and you do not get the job 99% of the time. And I remember sitting on my car on Melrose. It was a year after I'd been in the program, and I didn't get the part, and I was really upset. And I called my friend, and I kept her hostage on the phone for 25 minutes. And I hung up the phone, and I called another friend, and I kept her hostage on the phone for 20 minutes. And then I hung up the phone, and I called another person, and I did it. And right when I was hanging up that third call, this like lightning bolt hit me. I was like, oh my God, I just emotionally raped, mentally raped these 3 people to make me feel better. And it didn't work. And I moved on to the next person. And that wasn't fair. Yes, you should be able to talk about your emotions with friends and stuff. But when it was like this thing like, oh my God, I'm doing it with everyone. Like, I can't do this. I do not have my feet and care about the other person, then something is really internally wrong with me. And I remember going to a meeting later that night, and this guy walked in, this newcomer that had 30 years in AA. And he said, I can quit heroin, but I can't quit her. I can't quit this disease. And it was such a God shot of like, this will kill me. And like you said, if it doesn't kill me, it's going to kill me emotionally, or I'm going to get a terminal illness, because I feel like suppressed emotions can encroach our entire system. Because I was so angry, I was so empty, I was like reaching out for anything. And when you're reaching out for anything, you're usually not reaching out for the good stuff.
For sure. And, you've given us like the whole run of, I guess, in a real synopsis, right? And it sounds to me like a happy ending. You're married, you've got a 3-year-old daughter now. And I guess for people listening,
do you see how I laugh at that, people?
Yeah.
It's not a happy ending. That's the thing. It's like, yes, I look like I have all the cash and prizes. I have a career. I have a great family. I love my husband. I have a son. But what I just said, I'm truthful. If my husband leaves me today, if I lose my career, if I lose my money, if I lose my looks or whatever, I have to be okay internally. That stuff cannot fix me or make me whole. And it's really hard. I'm an addict. So I want the outside stuff to fix me. But go ahead. I totally cut you off. I just had to laugh because when I speak, sometimes people are like, well, because you got everything you wanted. And I was like, no, I didn't. Like I wanted the most perfect life, the most perfect. And I have to take out the dog poop and take out the trash and pay bills and worry about stuff. And, so I love that you said that. I just had to comment on it. Go ahead.
Of course. No, I'm glad you did, because like you said, you still got to do all those things. And also in between, where you began your journey to the progress that you've made, I'm sure there was a lot in between that. Right.
Oh yeah. It was hell. I went to hell and back to get where I was today.
Yeah. And, you mentioned you're married now to the same man that highlighted those meetings for you. And, you said us 9 years later, was it? Or is it now?
Well, it's 11 years. So that was 11 years ago. I just hit 11 years in December. So yeah, over 11 years.
Yeah. So, to go from where you were to where you are now, and the brief synopsis you gave us, and that, it all sounds all rosy now. Could you describe for us some of the, what it was like during that whole process for you and your relationship with, with that man? Because, you mentioned the moment that you had the realization, and you would have had to have told him about that, I'm guessing, right? And what those sorts of things, yielded for you, and how that played out in your relationship. Could you describe some of that?
Well, yeah. I mean, that first conversation definitely wasn't fun. No one wants to call their significant other and say, hey, I have this problem. I use people and I, almost cheated on you. And I like power and control over everyone, even you. So, and I'm not getting high off you anymore. So I like to flirt and intrigue. That is not a fun conversation to have. And luckily, my God or universe or higher power, whatever you want to call it, whatever spiritual you think of, put a man in front of me that was also in a 12-step program. He had 20 years of sobriety in AA. He got sober very young in AA. And so he understood that me having this problem didn't have to do with him. Like he could be the most perfect partner and it wouldn't matter. So he understood that he was used as a drug, or another man is used as a drug. So it's not like he went into a jealous rage or anything like that. So I got very lucky. I think it's harder in other people's relationships if they're not in a program and haven't done work on themselves. But it was still really hard on us. That first year, like I said, we did not have sex. I could not do it. And when we started, we had to go through, we had to do like intimacy courses where you like hold each other and look into each other's eyes, which is like the least thing I want to do. Like so uncomfortable. No, thank you. That is not does not turn me on. I do not want to lock eyes with you. That is too much intimacy. But we did things like that and were really difficult. That makes me like really uncomfortable to be seen, to really be seen by somebody else for all my flaws, behind the mask, behind, being on a movie screen or a TV screen. So that was really difficult for me. And, we had to do a lot of boundaries with each other, cut off any codependency. I went to a meeting, tried to go to a meeting every day. I did 2 years of, or 8 years of therapy twice a day. And we had a rule through my therapy that he wasn't allowed to come fix me. If I was crying, he couldn't come into the other room. And we lived in a small apartment when we were dating. We lived, in LA down by Beverly Hills in a teeny apartment. So he could hear me hysterically crying in the other room because it was trauma coming up. It was the moments I blacked out as a child, things that had happened to me that I did not feel. I've been stuffing down for years and years and years. And my therapist told me, he's not allowed to come in and tell you it's going to be okay. He can't rub your back or dry your tears or get you out of a bad mood. You have to be able to do this by yourself. You have to get it out of your system. And she kept telling me, which really helped me, like, you have to dig through your shit emotionally. You have to dig through your shit. So visualize, she said, visualize you're going inside of yourself and digging through like just shit, like actual shit. And she said, to get to your gold. Your gold is buried inside of you and you've covered it up. And she meant gold, like the innocent Brianne, the Brianne that used to be the little girl, before all the trauma, before all the abandonment issues and all that. So, and ego and narcissism and all that. So I had to do that and he couldn't fix it. And that's really hard for a partner to sit there and watch someone you love going through that much pain. It was like a part of me was dying. I was dying. So I had this one moment and I remember him being in the other room. I was sitting on our bed and I could not close my mouth. It was like I was crying so hard, just tears coming down my face. And it felt like a snake. I don't know if guys have ever experienced this, but it felt like a snake was coming, like an exorcism, like a spirit was coming out of my body. And I remember looking at the clock and 45 minutes had passed when I finally stopped. It was like the craziest sensation. And that wouldn't have been able to happen if I had someone soothing it or making it easier for me. And then working the steps, my 4th step, if you have heard about the 4th step, it's when you look at all your resentments. My 4th step took 2.5 years to do. I literally had 176 people on my resentment list and multiple resentments for people. And I'm not kidding. Like I went back through yearbooks and wrote down people I had resentments and annoyances with. I even wrote down like the lady in the bank, blah, blah, blah. Like, and it took me 2.5 years to do that. And then going through my character defects, I write about it in the book. I have 21 major character defects and I had to break them down to my top 5 and really have top 6. And I talk about it in the book and I walk through like that process of going through that with a partner also. And then it's like, 10, 11, 12, I have to be of service to other people. I have to meditate and pray every day. And I have to say when I'm wrong. And here's the thing about me, like I'm stubborn. I don't like to say when I'm wrong. So my husband and I, we have an agreement where we talk about everything. We almost over communicate where it's like, you said this. And when you said this is how it made me feel. And it's reminding me of this. Like we have this talk with each other, which is lovely. And I turn everything over to my higher power now, something bigger than me. But like I said, I was willing to let go of the relationship and he was too, for me to get healthy. And I think us doing that allowed us to grow together, because whenever you're trying to hold on to somebody or something, it's when things get a little funky. And there's a saying like everything I turn over to my higher power, God, universe has claw marks on it. Cause like I want it to work out. Like I try to make things work out. And I just think it was a whole process of us learning new types of intimacy. If we were sexual, to be very connected, I had to like reoperate my entire brain in our entire relationship.
Yeah. And look, Brianne, I just want to say, look, it's so refreshing to have this conversation with you and like hear you speak. So firstly, I just want to say thank you for again joining us. Like it's really refreshing because like what I want to point out is that, you know, from the outside looking in general society, you know, people usually, you know, think of those who, you know, work in Hollywood or are actors as, you know, the pinnacle of success. You know, they've got fame, they've got fortune, everyone's looking at them, they look beautiful, you know, they're always in the limelight and all these sorts of things. They're revered as, you know, as almost gods in a societal sense. But, you know, underneath all the layers, there's like just a real human being that is, you know, really admitting about all the work that needs to be done on oneself, you know, even in an interaction between in an intimate setting, there is work that needs to be done. There's nothing that's like, you know, quote unquote perfect ever, right? There's no state of perfection to be reached. It's always something to be worked on a day-to-day basis, because we're interacting with people at the end of the day who equally need, or not necessarily need, perhaps that's a subjective term, but need work on themselves essentially. So it's really refreshing to hear it, and like, you know, it's beautiful to see, you know, the level of detail and awareness that you've been able to take from reflecting on your own journey, and then you've been able to, you know, synthesize this into a beautiful offering and you know, act of service through your book and, you know, your ongoing work. So yeah, I just wanted to say it's really refreshing to hear your story.
I love that you said that. And I just have to speak on that for a second, because, you know, I am in Hollywood and it does look all pretty and filtered and everybody looks beautiful. We're all just as messed up as everybody else. We just have a job that, you know, looks like we're perfect, but it's really not true. And I just have to say, you know, if you look back at Elizabeth Taylor, she was married, 7 times. If you look back on people in Hollywood, their relationships are usually really messed up. And I think if you believe that someone out there that has a filter on them or perfect skin or perfect career or have a better life than you, then I am telling you that is not true. I have sponsored many celebrities, huge ones. Like, I'm like not a huge celebrity, but like I've sponsored A-list or bigger people, and they are miserable. It doesn't matter what you do with your life. It really matters what's on the inside. Like I said, you can have all the money and the fame and just be a miserable person that's not happy. And I've seen that so many times, and it's still hard for me. You know, I still want to be on the billboard. I still want my name in lights. That's why I got into the business. But I know now, because I see people come in every day that make $1 million an episode on something, that they're miserable, and it's not going to fix me. And you know, if you have millions of followers on Instagram, that's not going to fix you. That means nothing. Like, they're not going to put it on your headstone that you had 1 million followers on Instagram. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how many likes you get. And that's why I really wanted to speak out and write this book, is because we are looking for people to tell us we're loved and we're liked and we're enough, and we, you know, look a certain way. And it's like, that is not real. What's real is how much you love yourself. And I wrote the book. I didn't even want to write the book, you guys. Like, I've said this, like, my husband forced me to write the book. He like was like, here, I think you need to write a book. And I was like, no, dude, I'm dyslexic. I have ADHD. I just want someone to give me my dialogue. I am not interested in writing it. And he kept asking me, like, here's the book, here's this course. It's not that much money. Just try it. You can never tell anybody. And I wrote it in 45 days. And I actually didn't feel like I didn't even write it. I feel like somebody out in the universe like gave me the words, because I wanted to write. After I wrote it, I was like, I need to write something that will help people understand this is a really bad addiction and people are in jail for this and people die over this. I've had so many friends murdered. I have someone right now that was really close to me that walked me through the steps that is in jail right now in an institution, because the guy she liked once again lied to her. I have had people commit suicide over this. I've had people lose their sobriety in AA of 30 years plus. I've had people drunk drive because they wanted, I mean, I have seen the worst of the worst. And I know this disease is getting worse because younger and younger generations are coming in. And I just want to be of service because it helps me to stay sober, to help one other person stay sober. And that's why I did the podcast. And that's why I wrote the book and outed myself. You know, it wasn't for me because I was going to take it to my grave. I was a sex and love addict. I'm being of service. I have years and years in the program. And it was like, no, God was like, nope, you got to give more. You have to be more authentic. You have to be of service to bigger. You see all these people like suffering. And there's one more thing I want to say. I hope I'm okay to love to cuss. Am I allowed to cuss on your podcast?
Of course.
I don't know.
Of course.
Okay. So here's this amazing thing that I heard recently that was just cracked me up. And it's so true. So this gentleman that has like, I don't know how many years, but he said that you could see the most beautiful person ever in the world, and I will give you $1 million because I bet that somebody's sick of fucking them. So I was like, oh my God, that is so true. You know, like somebody's sick of fucking somebody. Like it doesn't matter. Once you get past the point of the high of a relationship becomes real. That person becomes a real person, not what they are trying to perceive themselves to be. So you like, again, you could see a celebrity J-Lo and you know, someone's like, not like saying she's the best of the best, you know, they're out doing what they're doing. So I just have to say that. Thank you for allowing me to share that.
That's so good. It's funny because that same expression, I've heard it a different way. And it's like, no matter how hot someone is, somebody's sick of their shit.
Right.
And
Totally.
It's so true. And you think like, there's got to be these people out there that are just the best and, you know, they're super attractive and they've just got it all figured out. And it's just not the case.
It is not the case. And I'm telling you, I'm smack dab in the most beautiful city in the world. I mean, not in the world. I mean, there's other beautiful cities, but a lot of people here are attractive and it doesn't mean anything. It's an outside. It doesn't mean nothing.
Yeah. And it's interesting to me, you know, you've mentioned it quite a few times in different ways. It's like everything from the outside is not really going to do much for you. It's the inner work that does it for you, right? But that inner work is really hard. And, you know, from what you're explaining to us, it's taken you years and years of work and continued work to do it. And, you know, what I want to ask you is a lot of the things that you've mentioned, they sound really hard to do, right? And we talk about this all the time on the podcast, that people just have this aversion to doing hard shit.
Yeah, people don't want to do it. We're lazy. We want the instant gratification. I mean,
That's
I do
right.
too, people. Like, I want it to be easy. I want instant gratification. I want it to be easy.
Yeah. So my question is, how have you been able to stay on the path of the work? You know, given how hard it's been, the experiences that you've had, and they have been hard, you know, from the very few that you've shared with us. They sound like really hard things to do, hard conversations to have, hard experiences to feel. How have you stayed on the path? How have you been able to continue to do the work, given how hard it is and how hard you know it is?
Well, I think it's a couple of things. I think accountability. I had a sponsor who made me very accountable. I had someone that was keeping me on track because as addicts, we get veered off. You know, I'd be doing step work and then I get a huge job and be on location out. And I would still have to check in with my sponsor. I would still have to go to meetings when I wasn't in town. I had sponsees to be of service to. So I can't be acting out if there's someone under me that's suffering even more than me. And when there's newcomers that come into the program or I have new people reach out to me on the podcast, that helps me because they're reaching out going, oh my God, I just did that same thing. Or my partner did that to me. How can you help me? And that makes me accountable. So I think having that outside source of accountability and having a therapist walk me through it. I didn't go through all that alone. You know, I went every week for 2 times a week. So it'd be like Tuesdays and Fridays, I would go to therapy and we dig through it. And I would cry. I would want to go eat ice cream. I would want to do anything not to feel it. But I just kept reminding myself that this pain is already there. It's already in me. And I got to get it out because it's killing me. Because I know, and I know to this day, 11 years later, if I don't go to a meeting every morning, like now I go to 9 meetings a week. I go to more meetings now than I did when I first started. And before the pandemic, I went to 5 meetings a week, which was more than when I started, because I know that's a massage for my soul, because I know that's something for myself that keeps me grounded, that keeps me in reality, that keeps me being of service, that keeps me turning things over to something bigger than me, that I'm just this small on the planet. Like the world does not revolve around me. I'm a worker among workers. When I go on set, I'm not a star, even though they get me my coffee and my chair and cater and put on all my makeup and everybody's fawning over you. That's nothing. I'm just a worker. And before, everything like that would mean I was special. I was unique. So I just kept myself really grounded. Like, this is not real. This is just a job. Tomorrow you'll be on the, be back on an unemployment line, trying to get a new job. And I just kept myself as grounded as possible. And I think your environment helps you. I think your friends, having friends that show up for you in an authentic way and don't put up with your bullshit. I think that was a beautiful thing of the program. And I really want to talk about that real fast, is like, once you start working on yourself and you change, the people that don't show up for you are usually fade away. Everything just kind of all the drama. There's no drama in my life. I don't have anybody I'm fighting with. Even my family, my dad, our family dynamic was really broken. My father was very emotionally incestuous, which means that he uses his children to fill him. He just, instead of using like a lover, he used his children. So it was always about him. It was like, no, you show up for me, you do this for me. And you're like, wait a minute, am I my own person? So we didn't talk for a year because he wouldn't respect my boundaries. Every dynamic in my life changed. And when that happens, I don't want to go back to the drama, but I still have to be of service. I still have to show up to my meetings. So it's just like, I knew I didn't want to be like the person I was anymore. And I knew there was someone that cared about people, that is just really sensitive, that is scared of getting hurt and being fully loved. And so I was willing to walk through, I say it in the book, I say, walk through the fire and let it burn. Like, let yourself burn. And I know if you're listening out there, you're like, I don't want to feel pain. As addicts, we don't want to feel pain. I only want to feel euphoria, but it's there already. You're slowly killing yourself. So just like walk through it. You can always go back to acting out. That shit's easy. Like using somebody's easy. Like that I could do with my eyes closed. So it just really allowed me to like step into this new self and jump off the cliff, they say, and not knowing who you're going to be. And now I'm on the other side and I have no desire to go use anybody, have anybody film me. It's such a freedom. I wish I could give someone a taste that like likes to flirt and intrigue. To not have to flirt for the rest of your life is the most freeing thing I can ever tell you. It is so freeing to hold your own energy and nobody impinges on you anymore.
Yeah,
I just went off on a tangent.
No, there are no tangents here. It's all good stuff. But yeah, like I totally agree. I think that, it takes a real level of, humility to, continually show up as someone who, admits that they need support and they need to be held accountable, that at any moment there is a possibility that they could be led astray or, think that they are, above anything else. And, a lot of people walk around and I think this way. They have a sense of knowing, and that's how you're supposed to show up in the world, right? That's how we're conditioned to sort of think, to, pull our shoulders back and puff our chests out and say that, I'm great, I have my shit together. But yeah, like you said, it takes a real, level of humility and just, humbling oneself down to the level of just saying, look, I don't know anything. I'm less than, I'm less than anything in the grand scheme of things, right? But
there's also beauty in that. I get
totally.
It definitely is humility. And I hated that word when I started, like hated that word. And now I love that word because it's like, there's something beautiful about knowing you're like not unique or special. You're just a human among humans. And it's just like, there's this grounding in it where
Totally.
you feel like you're rooted in the earth instead of like floating, trying to like, get all these things that are not real and they don't last.
Yeah, and like you said, it's a really liberating feeling, from whatever it is that you feel like you're wanting to chase in this life, right? You just
Yeah.
like sort of stop chasing for one moment, and you just realize that you've been running away from yourself all along.
Yeah, exactly. And it's
Yeah.
the most freeing thing. And I used to think like, wait, I can't flirt, intrigue. I can't like make it all about me anymore. Like, oh, that sounds like the worst life ever. And it's just so beautiful and freeing.
Mhm. Yeah. What I want to sort of talk to you about as well, I think that there's a few things that we covered, but I really want you, to dig on, the topic of the book as well, and just for you to bring up, and I guess correlate these two words, sexual addiction and love addiction. Like you said, not many people from a mainstream perspective, perhaps, they don't, really relate these two terms. Like you said, addiction is more about alcohol, drugs. When people hear the word, I'd love for you to, share some awareness on it, and how that feeling might be for someone who might be an addict in this way.
Yeah, so I like to describe sex and love addiction. It's two sides of the same coin. So we'll do the sex addiction side first. So you're usually addicted to the sexual act, not the person, not a specific person. So it's, masturbation, porn, one night stands, having multiple partners, being a cheater, all that stuff. And then on the other side, the love addiction is more like you're addicted to one specific person or people. So you go from multiple relationships, you go to relationship, which is something I did. I overlapped them though. You pick unavailable people. You keep going back to someone unavailable to you because you're trying to get them to be available to show your worth. So it's like that push-pull game in a relationship. A lot of people are addicted to the swipe left, swipe right situation we're in right now. But yeah, it's usually people are a combination of both. And the other side of it is once you get rid of those, usually then you swing to sexual anorexia where you withhold. You stop you trying to be intimate at all because truly both all three addictions are because you're scared of intimacy. And I always like to say, if you're out there listening and you don't identify with what I'm saying, because there's so many different ways to have this addiction. That's the thing. It's not black or white. It's a very gray disease. So if you were one, you would have totally different acting out behaviors than me, and so on and so on. So if you're listening and you find yourself going back into dramatic situations with friends or family or loved ones, that's usually a sign. Like there's not supposed to be drama. There's not supposed to be drama in healthy relationships. Yes, you fight. Yes, you have disagreements, but there's not drama. And also if you keep finding yourself, picking the same partner over and over again, if you're picking an unavailable person, you're probably unavailable. Like if you keep going after that person that doesn't love you, even a friend, if you keep going after that friend that doesn't show up for you, something in you is unavailable. So that's really like how I like to describe it because it's such a complicated disease, but it affects so many people and there's so much stigma and shame. But we're just addicted. I mean, imagine we're all on the same planet. Of course, we become addicted to people, like if we can become addicted to alcohol and drugs and food and money and shopping and name anything, there's an ism for it. Of course, we're addicted to love because if we look on movies and films, it amplifies that you're supposed to be looking for somebody. You're supposed to look for that person to fill you and fix you. You're supposed to be looking for the one, and music is supposed to play and all that. So that's really how I try to explain sex and love addiction in the most simple terms. And I wrote the book because when I started, every book is so clinical. It's academic. You would pick it up and it would be talking, and I get through a page and I'd want to throw it against the wall because it went in one ear and out the other. So I wanted to write a book where it was really easy for people to follow and understand. And it's like the main character, Roxanne, who yes, is based on me, but it's also based on other people's experiences in my imagination. It's a fiction. It's a Roman Clef fiction. I wanted people to have a conversation with her. So you hear she's talking to you. She's saying her inner thoughts. She's how she truly feels. And then what she does after she tells you what she feels and she does the opposite of what she feels, and you're like, what is she doing? But that's how we work as sex and love addicts. So I just wanted to take people on that journey of Roxanne's first year in recovery and sex and love addiction, and being in Hollywood and being an actress, what a working actress looks like, not what we think it looks like, but what it really is in reality. And I want to entertain people so that they go on a journey. They could act like they're watching a movie, but then underneath they're like, oh, wait a minute, I do that, or my friend does that. And here's the beautiful thing. My mom read it, which was scary, but she read it and it digs back, each chapter is 10 rules Roxanne learns along the way. And it's like 10 rules, like to heal and move forward, you have to look at the why. It's time to adult up, admit to your mistakes, compare and despair, stop questioning your worth, all these different rules she learns. But my mom reading it, looking back at the why, looking back at, the molestation and things like that. And she called me and she was crying and she said, oh my God, I finally understand your addiction now. Like part of me never completely understood it. And she said, and also some of the things you wrote about, I've done too. And it was such a beautiful healing moment for my mom and I to like come at the same level and we understand each other. And she also admitted some of the things she did. And it was just like, that's enough. If I can help one person or one person say like, I need help or this, I can't do this anymore, then I've done my job.
No, for sure. And that is really powerful. That person this time was your mom.
Yeah.
Right. And whoever you help, because we hear people say that, but I know you believe it. I can tell you truly feel that because, you hear people say, if I can just help one person, and you're like, really? Do you really mean that?
Yeah, I would too. I'm like, please, like, no, I'm dead serious. Like if I can help one person listening right now, I've done my job for the day. And if you are struggling out there, and I have to say, if anybody is, reach out to me on Instagram. I will put you in the right direction. I'll hook you up with someone like that will help you. I am here to be of service and help those that are still suffering, because doing that helps me not suffer. It really, truly does. When someone writes me an email, which I get, a dozen of them a day, it is just such a God shot for me, because I'm like, that's why I did it. That's why I told my story. That's why I told my truth. That's why I'm authentic now. That's where I'm honest. That's where I don't lie anymore and I don't use people. And it's like, these are the reasons, because someone reaches out and says, wow, I now don't feel so alone. I don't want to kill myself, or I'm not going to go back to that. Or I went to a SLAW meeting on Zoom, from Australia or from all over the world. It's the best thing for me as an addict to remain in recovery also.
For sure. And, this time it was your mom, but if it's one other person, right, that's someone else's mom, or it's someone's daughter, or it's someone's sister, or it's someone's brother, or, father. Like, you just never know who it is. And everybody's special to someone, right? And each person, it is important. It's super important.
Well, and it's a ripple effect.
Yeah.
I mean, I saw the ripple effect doing my 8th and 9th step. I saw the ripple effect of how much I hurt people and how it rippled onto other people. You don't understand the damage you do when you do something to hurt somebody else. And so I feel like it's my living amends that I help that ripple effect stop. Like if I can help one person not break another person, then that person goes hurts another person. It's just like, and it's generational. And if I can stop my addiction at my generation, my son won't turn into an addict. Like, cause I went through my family tree. It's like my great-great-grandfather was an alcoholic, and you go down the tree and you see how different family members acted out addiction at some sort, overeating, like gambling, all these things. And I get to stop that. Like my son hopefully will not have to walk in the rooms because I did the work on myself, and I won't put my baggage on him.
It's a beautiful, beautiful perspective to take. And I think that, if there's anything that anyone takes from today's episode, it should be something along these lines in terms of looking inward and simply doing the work, and how that will then culminate into, more of a perspective of being of service rather than wanting to live a life of, indulgence for oneself. So it's such a beautiful thing that you share, and I love the the different contexts that you bring, just because it's something that is probably less spoken about than others. So it's a joy to talk to you and bring light to this to a different audience. So yeah, thank you so much, Brianne, for joining us on the show today. I'd love to really ask for you to share with our audience where they can find you if they wanted to reach out and perhaps read the book and anything else that you're working on today.
Yeah, reach out to me. I'm on Instagram. I try to answer all my DMs. It's at the Brianne Davis, or TikTok at the.Brianne Davis. If you're interested in the book, it's on Amazon exclusively right now. It will go worldwide in a month, I think, but we did it exclusive with Amazon. Just go on Amazon and type in Secret Life of a Hollywood Sex and Love Addict. I know that's really long, so you can do Secret Life, Sex and Love, and it will come up. Or you can go to secretlifenovel.com. You can buy a book for $25 and I'll sign it and put a little nice quote. Or, if you want to just follow us on Secret Life Podcast, my husband and I do the podcast. We talk about every addiction imaginable, anonymous people, celebrities. We just had on Olivia Munn and Jenna Kramer, and Cheryl Burke's coming on, and people talk about their secrets that they've been carrying around from every addiction, suicide attempts, assail asylums, stealing, everything you can imagine, all walks of life. And we just really want to be of service and give back to the world because we've been so blessed with our recovery.
Beautiful. Thanks so much. And we'll definitely put all those links in the show notes for people to find you easily. Shaun, where can people find you, mate?
Yeah, easiest place to find me is on Instagram too. So Shaun_Coop, SHAUN_COOP. And people can also find us at true_north.co for the work we're doing there. And how about you, Les? Where can they find you?
Yeah, you can find me on my website, findingspace.co. All my work, mentorship, meditation programs, all can be found there, as well as on Instagram and Facebook. It's at findingspace.co. You can also contact us on the Hustle and Flow podcast at gmail.com. If you have any questions about this particular episode, if you want to reach out to Brianne, if you want to come on as a guest or anything at all, you can send us a note and say good day.
And I just want to take another moment to really thank you for joining us today, Brianne. It really was refreshing to speak to you. And, just want to thank you for being so open and, honest about your experience. It always helps, I know, when people hear people be transparent and tell the truth about their experience. And that's how we are all able to relate and then, take what you say and do something with it. That's really why we do this podcast, to, bring new perspectives and different perspectives to light so people can think differently and act differently and hopefully live better lives. So thank you very much for, sharing everything with us today.
Oh, well, thank you for having me. I loved it. It was a great conversation. Thanks, guys.
Absolute pleasure. And until next time, guys, if you enjoyed this conversation, you took out some nuggets, which I'm sure you did, you feel that it's a conversation that could help someone that you care about, just share it with one other person. That's a humble request for today. So until next time, guys, thanks.
See you guys.